Nice, nice. Good man. Thanks for the reminder. I had it in my head it was 1:30 for some reason, so I ran out of the garage and made sure I had a shirt on. And yeah,
Well, I just took a shave. I see you didn't.
no, no, I didn't have time for that.
I looked in the, I was watching I had the camera set up there and I'm looking at it and I go, man, my beard is getting grey.
Oh yeah,
Get it?
yeah. Wow, you're doing well, Georgie. I think you've got less grey on the top than I do.
Yeah, it's all right, eh?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
66 next month, so can't complain.
I wouldn't.
How you keeping?
Busy but good. Busy but good. Yeah. So we've had three mini GP bikes arrive for me to assemble or pre-departure inspection. So just been doing that for the customers, and they'll hopefully grab them next week, which
Yeah,
will be great. So yeah, first batch of bikes coming in for sale or have been sold. So
yeah, very
uh,
cool. So this is with
yeah,
the Moto GP, Mini Moto GP Academy. No, no, Mini, what is it? Mini.
Mini GP Academy NZ. It's a really silly name. Well, the name looks good when you write it down, but it's quite a mouthful to say. So we could have called it something simple.
My brain went to Moto GP. I don't know why.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. Good
Well,
news there.
yeah, that's awesome. We said, for this particular, session, we'll talk a little bit about mindset. It's an interesting topic, but I think it's a difficult topic in many ways because there's so many interpretations of what that actually means. But I do have a question for you, like right up front.
Yes.
When you, in your mini GP academy, do you focus on the technical aspects of riding more so than anything else, or do you talk to them about mindset?
So we haven't got to mindset yet.
Right.
We are really early in the stage of the formal training piece. So we've just announced essentially our second level become available for those because everybody came through the formal training last time had to start at level one, and that was very physics, physical riding skills. The next level is going to be heavily visual,
Yeah.
so which kind of starts to bridge that gap between what we do, what we see, and how we make a decision, right? So, yeah, I'd say that's where we're going next. We will get into that. On a basic learning level, it's really interesting. We have kids turn up with absolutely zero push bike or two-wheel bike experience. So it's been really intriguing to me to see when someone does struggle. And actually, the biggest struggle we've had is a quad bike rider. So someone who's used to quad bikes, like a little 50cc quad, and completely trying to flip from full-on pro steer to an actual counter steer and lean,
You're right.
um, because that person was definitely locked into the bars, turning the wheels the same way as the way you want to lean, which meant that she couldn't lean the bike over. So yeah, we had to go all the way back to strip the gradient right back uh, to basic on off throttle on the stand and practicing on the stand and just really make the steps smaller. And yeah, we ended up with a win with a lot more effort, which is what it's all about. But yeah,
Yeah.
having to strip it right back, that was really interesting to see that person fill up completely on rolling off to be able to slow down. That we couldn't even disconnect that at the start. So
That's
yeah,
interesting because you're right. The quad pro steers, it just steers like a car,
correct.
whereas a motorcycle is the opposite of that. Huh.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a really interesting, uh, not problem to work through, but an interesting situation to have, and then try and unpick it was really quite cool as well.
Yeah. Um, Mindset, like, what is it? I wrote some notes here trying to, thinking about how do you define it? And, I think it's more than just one thing. It's like the whole mental approach to writing, but it includes emotions, what you give attention to, you know, what you focus on while you're writing. And we talk about this a lot at the Superbike School, and you just mentioned it then. We do a lot of work on the visual aspects of it, which affects those things, what you give attention to, how you
Mm.
feel about things, particularly when you're going into a corner at high speed, because that affects, you mentally and emotionally. But the most important thing, I think, and I think this relates to not only track riding, but road riding, and that is that the bike kind of follows your mind. Where your attention goes, the motorcycle goes. And it's the old, you can have, the best throttle control in the world and best braking control and all that sort of stuff. You can do to the motorcycle everything perfectly, but without the information and the decision making and the right mindset, then, it's all for nothing at the end of the day. So I thought I'd throw that out there because it's kind of an introduction to what we're talking about here for listeners. If anyone's, eavesdropping on our conversation, which they probably are. Um, when your experience is predominantly on track, so what are your thoughts about the right type of mindsets that people on track should have, whether they're racing or not, and the types of things that they shouldn't be doing on track? I don't know. Where does your brain go when you ask that question?
Um, for me, it was scary when you said we might talk about mindset. I was like, wow, that's
Mm,
not a minefield, but such a vast open space.
mm,
Uh, and I immediately started thinking back to previous jobs and when I was was put into a heavy learning environment, and then what mindset worked for me, um, and to be able to learn in sort of the higher pressure environment, and then how does that relate to the question you just asked. Um, I I hate personally having to muck around with machinery at the track. I did it for years. I was in a class that enabled a lot of tuning and development. So so much of that uh, was all consuming. And if you're at the track, and I found at the track fiddling with things before you're about to ride, and you can see it at a track day when someone's a bike's not starting, or you can't get the front wheel in because the space has gone somewhere, or when you really bog down into something that's got really nothing to do with riding apart from getting out, apart from unlocking the problem to physically go ride. Like I see that as, and being a racer, when you have to do that, when you don't know if you've got your bike back together in time or it's running correctly, that is so distracting. And to be able to roll out a pit lane and then go and try and essentially, perform at your highest level, I think is almost impossible. If
mm,
you've got something back in mind going, was that bolt done up? Is it going to overheat this time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, um, yeah, the mistakes I see, or the advice I'd give is, start your bike up 3 days before, check everything 3 days before. So when you roll up, you unload something. Normally, you find out you've forgotten something, you left your lunch at home, or
mm,
it's really easy to forget one thing. We skins, we left Mark's skins at home, my son's skins at the last race meeting. Um, so the most amount of planning and preparation you do, so when you turn up, all you have to do is put everything there and know that it should start. I think is your first step really to track specific.
That's a little bit like, there's mindset preparation and mental rehearsals and all that, which is about what you do. What you alluded to there is what you don't want in your brain, which interferes with that. Like, I get it, like, because I relate that to things in your brain that shouldn't be there. Like if, the front end doesn't grip properly and you're thinking about traction and, oh man, hope that front end hangs on, which I've gone through, lately a few times. And
Yeah.
it affects everything that happens in there and how you perform.
Yeah.
So what I heard then was there's two parts to this. There's what you do with your brain and there's what you don't allow to get in there, doing things that prevent those interferences coming in.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to attention, right? So the $10 bill. So if your brain is full up on issues,
Yeah.
then how are you going to really focus on what it is you're trying to do, particularly on the track?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's getting rid of the overdraft or the bad bills, so that your $10 can be completely on rolling out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I like where you touch with a mental preparation, and that's the bit that I'd written down, particularly with regards to failure. So um, I to go a little bit off piece to come all the way back. My biggest failure, sort of the only recent failure I really had, was failing the New Zealand Air Force pilots course. So I made it about 25, 30 hours through flying training, and then failed, right? Washed out, or got chopped is what they call it. So, and what was really interesting is I failed an exam, and you only have so many attempts at exams and so many attempts at certain phases, and I remember having the exam about mid-morning, but I had a flight first up. So I remember I went out and did the flight with my instructor, and I just didn't really have a good flight. It definitely wasn't a failure, but didn't sort of perform in the physical aspect of flying as well as I wanted to. And then I went into that exam, and I was so hung up on not flying so well that I bombed one question, and it was a 10-mark question, and that was enough to throw me over the threshold, right? So suddenly it went from having an average flight to screwing up a question to failing a career path. So um, that was really, really weird to go through, and sort of, I've picked that apart for most of my adult life.
Mm.
When I reintegrated into flying in the military again, I had a big, massive anxiety bubble sitting there, fear of failure. So um, in the early stages, I started watching when they were doing basic stuff on the helicopters. I'd go out and watch the helicopters and start practicing what I would be doing when the helicopter was doing what it was doing, and that visualization was something I'd never done before, never tried. And then when I went out and was assessed for the crewman job I was doing, the instructor was like, "You've made a really big step here. What would you do different?" And all I could think of was this visualization piece, watching something happen and run through my brain what I believe I should be doing at that moment in time. And it just made me so much more prepared, so that when I was in the chopper, just similar to being on a motorcycle, sensory overload, I had more available currency,
Mm.
and it made it a shit ton easier. So yeah, that's something that I thought I could bring up in this mindset piece.
But there's a lot of research about that, like even in not just motor vehicles and flying and bikes and that, even weightlifters, like a
Right,
weightlifter visualizing that they're lifting, if they're, I don't know, if they're a power lifter or something, visualizing, just imagining themselves lifting the weight that is the weight that they want to hit as a target actually has an effect on the neurology. A lot of neurology is activated in alignment with that.
right.
Have you seen, and you just prompted the thought, have you seen the documentary on the Blue Angels? The
Oh no, yep.
Right. They Netflix have a documentary on the Blue Angels, and in it, when they do the briefings, the only reason I this came to mind is because the other night I was watching Formula One in Miami, and I forget who it was. It might have been Ocon, one of the races, and the team. It was associated with the Williams team. They had the driver and the team manager. They got a flight with the Blue Angels.
Oh wow, yeah, okay,
And they
amazing.
sat, yeah, and they sat in the briefing room, and I'd seen this before when I saw the documentary. They do the briefing, right? You got the leader of the squadron or whatever, and basically what they do is they sit there, and it's really strange to watch because they sit there, and he goes, "Okay, so let's do the flight," and then they all shut their eyes, right? And he sits there and he does the takeoff and makes all these funny noises. He goes, "Okay, we're taking off. We're lifting, hard left," and he does the movement, and all of the
Oh
team call the movement and do the movement at the same time. And they
yeah, interesting.
physically fly the plane through the
Yep,
entire flight sitting around
yep.
a table. So relating that back to what we do, I mean, and you talked about it there with the helicopter. How much did you visualize? And Jorge Martin actually does it. If you watch him before a race, you'll see him like you see him going through the track. Did you ever do that when you were racing?
No, I should have.
You should have.
I don't. Well, no, that's a lie. I remember when learning about reference points and learning about visual information and I think it's written in one of the Twist books, that in theory you should be able to close your eyes and ride your way around the racetrack, start a stopwatch, ride your way around your favorite racetrack that you've got all the information. And when you complete the lap, stop your stopwatch. And they say, or I believe it was in Twist of the Wrist, that the time that you stop the stopwatch at should be what your normal lap time is, right? Because that tells you you've got enough information and you're giving the information enough attention as you're riding past it.
Right.
That it's accurate enough that your sense of space and specifically time is accurate. I
Interesting.
didn't do it enough, and yeah, but before a race, no, I didn't have enough currency to branch into that. Um, you might have seen Mark Marquez. There's a little clip of Mark Marquez listening to tracks. Have you seen that one?
I have, yeah. He can call the track based on the sound of the engine.
Right,
Mm.
and he does it within the first turn.
Mm.
That seems to be like he can. The clip shows 5 to 10 seconds, and he'll say, "Oh, it's Magello. Oh, it's Phillip Island." And normally you can hear, a bike open and then an amount of braking and how many gears,
Mm.
um, and then either when the throttle comes back up or not. Obviously, he doesn't hear any steering inputs. But I'm guessing that he is so aware
Yep.
and visualizes so many different spots that he knows what he's doing at every track with gear changes, with throttle, with all the noisy bits.
Yep.
He can visualize it and then link things. Even when he can't see it, he knows it by sound.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Right? It has to be a visualization
Yeah.
event.
Uh,
That's just my
You can
opinion.
only do that if you don't have a job.
Yes, well, yeah, that's his job. His job is to know every single racetrack by noise.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so that there has to be lit to it, right? And yeah, it's a good example of those top guys on any profession. And
Yeah.
and interesting looking at it, the medical side as well with the flight or fight stuff that happens, right? When we get into a stressful situation, then obviously certain things distort,
Yep.
and those people in any serious profession, and you talked about powerlifting before, right? Like, I suppose if you can warn your body of what's about to happen just before you're about to throw one of the most stressful events at it that you can, do by choice, then surely it gives you. There must be positives to that, right? So,
Oh, 100%. We used to do it back in my past life, like, in a
yeah, you got to,
room combat scenario. The minimum, and this is the golden rule, if we couldn't get, let's just say there's a targeted building, if we couldn't build that building layout on the ground, like map it out and kind of
yep.
thing, at least chalkboard it onto a warehouse floor or something, then we would mentally rehearse going through that building. We would just sit and talk our way through the building with our eyes closed. It's the only way you can physically do it. Your neurology's been through the building,
Yep.
as opposed to looking at a picture. It doesn't work that way. It's like if you're on a plane, they stand there and they display how to put a life jacket on,
Mhm.
right? The people who just watch and listen cannot put the life jacket on as effectively as someone who imagines themselves putting it on while they're
Okay,
talking.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yep.
There has been research done on that. So the visualization affects how you perform. Like you say, it's almost like, what do you say? You've prepared yourself, for what's about to happen, but at a neurological level. And what I'm hearing here is that, imagination, visualization affects your mentality and your mindset, when you're on the track. It has to, for sure. What about what type of, like, and again, calling on your experience as a racer,
Mm.
what type of mindset or attitude should a racer have if they want to be effective on there? There's different attitudes you can have. We see it at the school. People turn up, and then you get someone who's, they're going to be a bit arrogant. It's rare, but it happens. A bit arrogant, already know how to do this stuff. And then you get the humble one who can ride like a Mike Jones, humble as anything and rides so fast. It's crazy. But what is the right type of attitude to have there on a
I don't
racetrack?
know if I'm qualified to answer that one at all, George, or I'm the best person to ask. But um, I turned up to school as an arrogant racer,
Mm.
uh, you know, um, and was humbled pretty instantly. To be fair, I think it was about halfway through the throttle control briefing, my brain filled up, and I was like,
Humbled quickly, you said. Is that right?
"Yeah, yeah, absolutely." Um, uh, I don't feel I can answer that question.
Mm.
I can only answer from my experience and what I'm seeing in others, I suppose. There seems to be the common theme is you have to be competitive. You
Right.
very rarely a participatory do it for fun. Those who are, and there are people who definitely are that way,
Yeah.
but the ones that seem to have more drive or more push are the ones that will compete all the way to
Yeah.
the very end and will work on their bike all the way through the night or will fight through the pain or will, and that seems to be, that's universal, right? We see riders, MotoGP riders, snap the collarbone and they're back the next day with a
Yeah.
plate put in. There's plenty of professional athletes that won't do that. And and aren't able to do that. So the MotoGP guys and anyone at that top level sport, they'll go to the doctor and say, "Can I do this?" And they'll go, "Technically, you can. I recommend you take 6 weeks off." And they'll go, "See you soon, doc." And away they go straight back to the racetrack. So um, the ones that seem to the ones that seem to appear as if it's easy for them seem to have a more relaxed nature, right? Like that
Yeah.
seems to be the future at the moment. I think of people like Johnny Ray. I think of even Top Rack. Like they just seem like when everything is almost out of control, and Marquez is on an absolute other level. It just looks like
Yeah.
he could do everything
Yeah.
with one hand behind his back. There doesn't seem to be anything that is stressed when they are at that real tiny little envelope of 99.98% of capacity. They still can have something left over to affect change or to go, what is that person doing? I'll sit behind them for 3 laps.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm at my PB lap time, but I can sit behind them and what? They're better there. How do I change that? Like, how do they have this entire space left over? Um, and I think back, 80s, 90s, and a little bit earlier, the raw talent and the aggression was really up there. And there seems to be a whole lot more thinking now. There seems to be a whole lot more calculating and understanding of the machinery and of the physics and how to get that bike to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Um, that's
Still,
my little, I suppose, opinion.
it's still that real, and I'm just, as you're talking, running through, looking at Josh Waters, Mike Jones, Ant West, the people at the front, of MotoGP. Um, who else? The ones that leading Moto 2, Moto 3. There seems to be a strong killer instinct there. You know what
Mm.
I mean? There's an aggression there without it. It's not an angry aggression, it's arm aggression. But they're killers, like, well, the one I know closest or more than anyone is probably Mike. And he's this humble guy, but he's a killer on track.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that's part of it. It's like what would the word be? They're assertive without losing control.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
It's not
Yep.
driven by anger. It's driven by, let's just win this damn thing kind of
Well, and
thing.
there seems to be, I think you're right on point there. And from what I've experienced, is when you start trying really hard,
Yeah.
and you're like, right, I'm gonna break even later because that's what I need to catch this person.
Yeah.
Your lap times suffer or your mistakes go up.
Right.
And then as soon as you start giving capacity back, for me, it was my home track turn one. As soon as I started trying to brake later than I normally do, I'd go slower. And as soon as I'd go back to rolling off at the right point and braking at the right point, lap times would drop. That was a complete mismatch of trying too hard,
Yeah.
equaling not getting performance. Um, so yeah, that bit that you're talking about there is how are they able to be fast and use the aggression smart? How can they go, okay, well, I need to make time, or I'm losing time, or the tire's dropping. So I can't use the edge of the tire. So I can't be fast at this section. How do I be fast at another section? And after talking to Steph Redmond, who
Mm.
is a phenomenal ride coach and racer, talked about a fantastic event they do up north, and the heat is such a big thing up there. And yeah, she talked about how that you can do the lap time, but once the tire goes, you need to change your approach at
Mm.
this particular racetrack on those tires to maintain the pace. You change the way you're riding because, a 12 lap race, the tire cooks. So if you want to keep the pace and not fall back into the clutches of the other riders, then how do you perform for 30 laps at top level and obviously in that level in that 10, 15 laps, you've got to change the way you're thinking. So, and she's got this ability to be able to do that and understand how you can make a change and still be fast.
Mm.
Um, that to me is outside of my mental capacity as a rider currently, probably forever.
Interesting. I heard what I heard then is your mindset's also affected by the skill level you have, you know, and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Um, last school, Sydney, working with a trainee coach, and I'm really trying to grip up my accuracy. You talked about accuracy.
Yep.
We talked about accuracy a few podcasts ago, and it was something I really drilled into the trainee coach that I don't really care where you come from in the corner, as long as you make an apex. I don't care where the apex is. If there's a student there, okay, we can't do that. But anytime you're anywhere, we need to find an apex so that we always straighten out the turn. And I put a penalty on it, 5 press ups, right? So anytime we miss an apex,
Yep.
the training coach has to do 5 press ups. And I said, I'll do every press up you have to do. And obviously if I miss any, then let me know. And first time coach, yeah, we missed a couple together. And second rotation last week, he missed none. I missed one, and I remember doing it, and it was such a foreign feeling turning into turn 4 at Sydney Motorsport Park. Just changed. It was rain. It was on and off drizzle at Sydney, and I changed the mode from rain mode back to race pro mode, or whatever the number was on the dash. And obviously, the engine braking was quite a bit different between rain and whatever the setting was. And yeah, peeled into 4 and just started leaving the track, exit stage left, going, what's going on? Was not responding the way I expected it to do. Never got the line. I was SRing off the chain, going, completely. I haven't even got anywhere near an apex. I've got to roll on. And I did. And sort of, training came back. Like, did you mean to miss that apex? Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Just demoing how you don't do it.
How you don't do it. So, but I was not expecting the bike not to react a certain way or to react the way it did. And yeah, didn't, I ran out of capacity to go, okay, we'll just do this to make the apex or change this. I sort of sat there and went, I'm off in the boonies here. What's going on? Maxed out.
But that's a
Yeah.
bike change. I mean, you had a change in the thing that was under you, and significant too. You go from
But I
rain.
changed it,
Yeah.
right? I changed it and I should have picked up halfway around. I'm not making this. What can I do different? I didn't. I let it go. And then it became, we're near it and you're never going to get it. You won't press ups.
Yeah, but you fixed it next one.
I do, absolutely.
I like that because that target of 5 press up or something. And by the way, I threw that out at one of the students, level 4 students.
Nice.
I actually
Yep.
put it on the table. I said, maybe if we put a penalty on there, you might get more accurate. And
Yep.
I use the metaphor: if you put $1,000 on every corner, and you can run over it, you can have it. And if you miss it,
Yeah.
you got to give me $1,000. What would you do differently? Well,
Yeah.
I'd do this. I go, well, there you go. Just do that. Um,
Awesome.
yeah,
Yep.
but that just changed the value of something. You just turned something that's people are ignoring into something important, isn't it? Which is part of the mindset. What is important to you?
That's all it is. That's just 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. It got me. I was just thinking then because I remember Ian or John, his dad. Where I first kind of the conversation came up. How much energy and attention do you give to the turn point versus the rest of it? And typically people put too much attention on the turn in point, not enough attention on, the apex and the use
The rest of it.
DEF's framework, the departure angle and exit line and things like that. But yeah, interesting. I wonder how much of the visual aspect of riding affects the high level rider's ability to manage fear. Because there has been some things floating around. I think they're extracts from podcasts or videos or something where, I think Mick Doohan was the one where I saw it. He said when he rode around there, he was shitting himself the whole time. Like it's not like they're not scared, but they're doing something to manage their fear out there. Because let's face it, how fast are they riding? In Moto GP and Moto 2 and even the Moto 3 boys.
Yep.
Or I should say girls too, isn't because what's her name? What's the name of the female rider who won the Super Sport Championship?
Are you talking about 300 Super Sport? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
she racing.
yep. And now obviously they got the world's the Women's World's Championship happening right now. You got
True.
a decent Australian representative there, at least one, maybe two, and we've got two Kiwis over there too. Yeah, so
Yeah. But how
really
do
good
they
numbers.
manage fear? Because there's fear there the faster you go, and visual aspects have to creep into it. But that again affects mindset. So it's almost like the mindset on track is, you know, being assertive without losing control, a real calm aggression, but being able to manage fear at the same time. So how you do that? I don't know. I've never ridden a MotoGP bike. I'm going to ask Mike the Savo. I'm talking to him.
Well, and yeah, so from as soon as you talked about fear and speed, like Phillip Island to me is super fast, and it would be the scariest track for me. If you asked me to go 2 seconds a lap faster at Phillip Island, I would be more fearful of that
Yeah.
than 2 seconds a lap faster at Sydney. Yeah, which is really interesting, right? So why am I have a higher fear there than I do at other places? Um, yeah, what are you concerned about? But we've talked heaps to the death about the track piece, and the reality is a lot of people do a lot of road stuff. I
Right.
feel like I'm missing out. I hear about all these cool road trips, and did a fantastic trip over Thailand last year with mountains to MotoGP and with you, and it was road riding in Thailand, and yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yep. It was awesome.
What was our mindset? Was your mindset different over there? You had Deb on the back, makes it a bit different.
Not really. I like as you know, I don't know. I've probably done 1 million kilometers on the road.
Wow.
Like I know in a past life I did where I was paid to ride bikes on the road. I did over 300,000 kilometers because we replaced the bikes every 100,000,
And
and
you did three bikes.
I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
three
yeah.
bikes.
Wow. Yep.
So the I think you know what I get out of this, or the way I answer that is, it's what mindset didn't we have? The Definitely didn't have that, overconfidence or the ego battles, you know,
Yeah.
where you feel like you can do anything, but you may not have the skill to be able to do that. I think that's part of the problem on the road, overconfidence. See it on the range all the time. People go and get themselves a big, sport bike, a super bike or whatever, and they get up on the range and they go and hammer it. And they reckon they're going to go and do some fast laps on the range, which is madness in my opinion. And most of them crash. Ego battles, trying to race someone on the street. We did do some drags, didn't we? But they were pretty much in open areas. Uh, I think the other part of it is riding while you're angry or stressed or distracted. There's crap going on in your life.
Yeah.
There was definitely none of that over there, other than shit, it was hot,
Oh, it's
like
good.
real hot.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
So those
it's
things, I think, I didn't see any of that over there, and I think that's why
oh
we
no, no, not no.
crashed. But I think that relates to ride roading in general,
Yeah, yeah.
all that
The,
stuff.
the arrogance, or that trying to break a lap record on the road, it's a real interesting one. Eh? As soon as you said that, because I know exactly where I used to do it,
Mm.
and I used to consider myself the king of a certain area
Yeah.
in my local neighborhood,
Mm.
and would have a stopwatch or would take on anyone that wanted to come for a ride with me, and it was young, dumb riding. It was very young, and that's what came to my head then was
Mm.
that's a young person's decision and really really silly. And it actually took a decent accident for us to get off the road.
Yeah.
One of the kids got pretty badly hurt, and survived, and we kind of went, maybe we should be going to a place that there aren't four-wheel drives coming the
Yeah.
other way.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the wake-up call. We would have been 19, 20, to go and jump on the track. And to be honest, most of us did. And at least half of us stayed in that track environment after that. We still had road bikes and would go on road trips. But yeah, the proper space to go and have that blasting fun was the track. So kind
Mm.
of lucky we went there.
We
Didn't
get that
become enough.
here, like I'm first to admit that I do ride, I don't know, faster than the speed limit, on the range, but the speed limits are pretty low on those. But the thing that goes through my head is one, ride within yourself. Don't do anything that you really don't have the capability to do, or you don't know you have the capability to do.
Yeah.
Number two, on the road, even if it is spirited riding, you can still ride defensive.
Yep.
And I don't add giant lean angles. I can crank a bike over a long way, but I don't do that on the range. And the other one is avoiding, on a right hand, we ride on the left hand side of the road here. When you do a right hand turn, I don't hug that white line. It's a wide line that I take, and you
Yep.
cater for it, and, you drive with that in mind or ride with that in mind all the time. And the other one is if I'm riding behind someone, and it seems to me that they're probably pushing it a bit fast, I'll back right off. I won't stay close to them. I don't want to put that pressure on other people because I figure people behind you can affect your mindset,
Right. Yep. Yep.
particularly newer riders or people who just want to win. They've got a bit more aggression in their in the way that they're thinking.
Yeah, yep, yeah. I totally agree with all those sentiments, and yeah, you gotta leave fat. Gotta leave fat in the system because it's an uncontrolled environment. It's
Correct.
such an uncontrolled environment. So, um, the old triple I've got. I need to ride it more. It's sat on display for a couple of months now, but it's really interesting going out and riding that because it's the only bike I have that's road shift.
Mm,
So you have to change your mindset, change the way that you're thinking about that. And for me, it's all about the clutch. As soon as I start using a clutch
mm,
to change up, then for some reason I can turn my foot and operate it the other way. But the front brake on that thing pretty much is just a siren. It just makes a whole lot of noise and doesn't do anything. Um,
stop
so
happening.
yeah. So the rear brake is a drum brake and it's better than the front disc brake. So that lets you know how good that is. But so, the slowing down distance needs to be massive. And it's quite a tidy thing, so I'd hate to have a little skid on it. So the amount of fat that I leave on that thing is far higher. But it's really fun to bend it over a little bit and get it singing on the pipe and you really enjoy riding it. But you can't do anything that I'd call above spirited. Because it's not, it'd be a waste to be such a shame for something little to happen and it'd be bent over and
Mm.
all bent up. So
Yeah.
yeah, you
Road
you
riding. It's a tricky little game, but I love that. The front brake is a siren.
yeah, just lets everyone know you're coming.
Yeah.
Uh,
How do you, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I've always thought about mindset and all that. And I remember that, like I got to cast my mind back to a previous life, and that was training people in an environment where the way that they trained was reflecting the way operations would be conducted. And a big part of that was trying to train their mindset so that they, thought in the right way whilst they were nervous and things like that.
yeah, yeah.
How does one, or how do you think people can, better train their mind, better prepare their mind, if they're going to go out and ride on the track? You got any thoughts about that? I know these are tough questions, and it's a tough
They
topic.
are. They are. I saw a really cool clip by one of the world's best free climbers. I wish I could remember his name, but if you Google him, he would pop up pretty instantly. He free climbed one of the biggest, faces in the world and spent 10 hours doing it or something stupid.
Documentary,
Um,
free climb or
yeah.
something.
And he talked about fear and real fear,
Mm,
right? And the clip that I saw that really resonated with myself was talking about people who aren't exposed to genuine fear
mm,
uh, as adults, like ever, And he used the example of missing a flight. So you go to an airport and you're running a bit late, and people are wigging out, are losing control of their emotions because they might miss their flight or their connecting flight to go somewhere. And he goes on to say, you're in a climate controlled environment with endless food, with massaging chairs, and you can't go, oh well, I'll catch the next one. And he was sort of stating that if you're not actually exposed to genuine, absolute, or real fear, then you don't know how you're going to respond, or you can't, you
right.
respond to things that aren't fearful in irrational ways. So, and where I was thinking with that was, riding at Phillip Island or riding at a real sort of or operating in an area that could cause you to get into fight or flight. and then have to sit there and diagnose or problem solve while you're doing it. So this is the long way of saying mental flexibility. Like, how do you make yourself more flexible mentally and more prepared? It's got to be put yourself in situations that aren't 100% planned and known out, because that's the track is such a controlled environment, a standard road track, and you could even argue that the dirt scene as well, right? Like, you could go and do 100 laps the day before a big meeting and know where the track is. The things that are uncontrolled are conditions and other competitors, right? So you still have to have some flexibility, mental flexibility, to deal with a competitor that you've never seen before come up the inside of you, and you're like, where's he been all season? You
Mm.
know, and be surprised by it. So and then ride around it. So I think, yeah, there's got to be some practicing some mental flexibility, practicing putting yourself on and that doesn't mean you go out and pump your rear tire up to 72 psi and try and learn how to
Easy.
ride on a rooted tire. But Brian Bernard here in New Zealand is one of the most sort of long-standing road racers. Still uses used tires, and the people he runs likes to run a used tire and flip it. And he said to me, a year or two ago when I was talking about it, he's like, I think it's really great for people to know what happens when the tire isn't brand new,
Mm.
because it happens. You have a new tire every race. Absolutely, put a new tire on if you can. But
Yeah.
if the tire doesn't work, tire goes off, suspension setting isn't right, and it starts to cook, then what are you going to do? If you think everything's going to be exactly as planned, then how do you become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation? You would have heard that in previous life as well, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's
sort of my
interesting.
piece on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a little like you could, if you went out, let's use Phillip Island, you go out there, you ride around there, and if you just ride around at a comfortable pace, you're never going to build the skill or build the capability of utilizing your skill when you're not comfortable,
Mm. Yep.
which is that whole, like we just released a training course on public speaking. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
point I made to people is you've got to have the emotional layer built into the skill. Like, when you're exercising a skill, neurology is being utilized, but there has to be the emotional layer there of standing on a stage, which is when you feel nervous. People are fearful of it. So if you train public speaking without getting nervous, well,
Yeah.
you don't know how you're going to perform when you're nervous. And I
Correct.
learned this in my past life. You've got to, in pristine environments, people will perform differently because they're comfortable than they will in an operation.
Yeah.
So it's the same with bikes, isn't it? You've got to be, if you just ride around and you're comfortable, you're not going to necessarily build the capability to utilize a skill at a higher speed. You've got to get uncomfortable a little bit. So,
Yeah, as a competitor, absolutely. But I want to, I suppose, put the caveat that I don't think everyone should go out there and try and become uncomfortable. Um, you want to go as fast as you're comfortable to go. But if you are searching for progression and you're searching for advancement,
yeah,
then something has to change.
correct.
If you, what's the saying? If you have the same input and expect the same output, then you're a bit crazy. So, um,
No, isn't it
yeah,
I know the one you mean. That's
yeah,
doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome is the definition of madness or something.
there you go. Right. So,
You said it in
um,
New Zealand language.
yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. And but that goes back to, for me, that goes back to accuracy, right?
Okay.
So until you can be accurate at the pace you're at, how do you know if you can add pace? Because you don't know the result.
Yeah, right.
That was the big learning point, or the big, unlocking moment. It's like, if you can always hit that same spot every time,
Yeah.
then someone says, okay, try a bit faster. And if you still hit it, then you know that a bit faster is your new
Okay,
speed,
right, right.
because you can still be accurate. So if you're never quite accurate, then how can you trust yourself to try something
Yeah.
and increase pace or change a different thing? It doesn't have to be pace. Change another parameter. How do
You
you know it's
could,
going
but
to
you're not
work?
going to be if you're not accurate at lower speed, you can't go faster and expect to be accurate.
You got no data that says it works or not. It could have been something else that you changed at the same time. So yeah.
Did I tell you? I think Steph told me. Um, we talked about the accuracy and changing lines and all that. Does it affect distance ridden and all that? We talked about.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And she threw out the figures, and forgive me, Steph, if I got them wrong. I'm pretty sure it was 40 to 80 meters. The distance can change depending on
Ah,
what you do in terms of line and accuracy and things like
yeah.
that. But
Because we had that conversation. We went right deep into into measuring circumferences of tires
When,
and
and then I find out that they collect the data through GPS anyway.
yeah,
Just,
way easier.
yeah.
But our concept was on point. So 40 to 60 meters
40 to
longer,
80 meters, I
40
believe.
to 80 meters
I'll
longer.
have to check, and
Yeah,
man, don't quote me, but yeah,
yeah,
he says as he's saying
that's
it. But
yeah, yeah.
forgive me if I got it wrong, but it's something like that.
That's a few rotations of tire.
Way more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and it sounds like we need to have a chat to the USA. They've done a little bit of data on running a lower line for a pass,
Right.
right? So if you were uh, say going into turn four at Phillip Island, and instead of being that nice sort of open qualifying faster line, if you run a tighter line and running effectively a block passing line.
You mean
uh,
turning in, basically, you're saying turn in a little earlier so come in tighter at the entry.
Yeah, so if an arc is essentially not straightening out the turn as much as you possibly could, and the reason you're not doing that is to be able to make ground on a competitor or stop the competitor from having that line. So you turn in from a more inside position,
Yeah.
which means you have to change your speed to be able to be accurate and make the same drive out, right? And I can't believe, I think it was John Groom who was talking. They asked the question, okay, well, if you're going to do that, if you're going to block pass, you have to go slower, right? If you're going to change your turn point and make that style of line, you have to go slower. And they go, yeah. And they said, well, how much slower? Like, give us a number. How much slower do you think you have to take that turn in order to make the apex and make your exit, not just blow it wide, right?
Mm.
What's the number? And a lot of the students would. This is in a level four or code race school. Would throw out numbers like 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, like quite a bit slower.
Mm.
And again, we'll need to confirm this, but the data that I was told was no, it's more like 2 to 3.
It's only a small amount.
Yeah. So um, scrubbing off that much extra speed, and that's the reason why you don't lose as much ground as you possibly should.
Mm.
Because yeah, you have to go slower, and you obviously the lap time will be lower, but you still are able to get in front of a person doing the same pace as you. So where am I going with that? Changing the line might not have as much of a speed effect as we think.
Mm. But it
It
has
feels
a different.
like we're going a lot slower though, doesn't it? But when you go in, if you're going to do a pass, you feel like you have to slow a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be really good to get some. That'd be the next question: is how much slower are people having to go when they? Because there'll be data showing when out west goes under someone or Mike goes under someone. How much slower is he tipping it?
I'm going to
Uh,
ask Jeff.
there you go. Yeah,
Get
yeah,
him data on that. You just prompted a thought. I had never even thought about it before, and Ian brought it up the other day with a student. The student says, "Feel slow in that corner," and he said, "A slow corner is supposed to feel slow."
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Ah, there you go. They're not all supposed to feel fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that. Absolutely.
But I am gonna,
Yeah,
I got to ask Steph that one. And
yeah.
what was it about? How much speed difference is there really on a tighter line? Because
Yeah,
it's definitely a distance.
and I suppose it would be like, why would someone do a tighter line, or you'd have data on the standard line and then changing that,
Right.
and I would say 9 times out of 10 it's going to be to do with passing
Yeah.
on entry. So yeah, be real interesting
Yeah.
um, to see the speed difference at the same point of initiating the turn to see how much slower you actually are.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, slow corners are supposed to be slow, whereas it's a whole lot harder to make up time in a slow corner. And for me, that feels safer. I love pushing a slow corner.
Mm.
And I think that's the little bike-ness, right?
Yeah. Right. Which I dragged to Sydney last time. You even brought it up. I was riding the little bike line on the big
Yeah.
bike.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Um, any final thoughts on mindset? I made some notes. I thought about this. How do you train a better mindset? Pre-ride rituals, visualization, making sure your gear's organized so you're not thinking about gear, getting control of your breathing, breathing exercises. Such a big thing now, breath,
Yeah,
control of breath.
yeah, yeah.
I think the
No,
other one is post-ride reflection,
Well, and yeah, it's something that's really my son gets frustrated because what was good about that? Dad, I just want to ride. What didn't you like about that? Why do you always want to talk to me? It's like, well, if you can identify something, then at least we can come up with a plan for the next thing, right? Um, uh, and I think that's got to be the key. And you see, or anyone who's in that scene is looking at where they can improve, and even the winners are saying we can improve. So yeah, I think that reflecting piece people understand now. The
Yeah.
preparation piece, I still wouldn't put my hands right over it, saying I'm very prepared.
Yeah.
Um, Something I would like to ask was, when have you felt your mindset go, and how have you grasp control of your mind? Because I struggle in the competitive sense when I'm competing in something I really enjoy, and squash is my example. So if I start, my performance drops a little bit, or something doesn't, I used to really struggle with things not going my way, and everyone would say, oh, as soon as you start getting angry, your playing gets worse.
Yeah.
And so I've spent a lot of time trying to stop me flying off the deep end, because it affects my performance.
Yeah.
Um, so what processes or things have you got in your toolkit if it starts turning to crap? When's the last time it turned to crap for you?
I that's a good question. When was the last time? I can't think of it specifically, but I know the one thing that I've always focused on is I never get angry, right? Because I learned this just watching my dad as a kid. He was a blind rage, the
Oh,
red
yep,
curtain drops kind of guy.
yep,
And I remember the stories early in life, and I think I believe that influenced me, but I've always been able to remain calm regardless of what happens. I don't get upset, right?
wow,
Yeah, I have this view, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I
yeah, yep,
don't have that, okay, this is a negative thing. I just go, this is a positive if you want it to be. I just released a book on this, this whole mindset thing of, taking learnings away from things rather than seeing anything as a loss. Um, but on the track, my probably biggest issue mentally is distraction. You know,
right,
just, the one thing I've noticed of late, and I've been talking to, everyone about it. How do we get the bike to feel better so that my brain is not giving attention to that front wheel? Let's get the geometry sorted. So distraction on the bike itself. Haven't been happy with the bike at the front end.
right,
Other one is a distraction with business. We go through highs and, the ups and downs of private enterprise. And there are moments when, holy shit, I'm going to the track with the school, but I'm overwhelmed with something else. So
right,
I just ride within myself. I slow down. That's been of late. It's been just take it easy. But I think the big one is, one, I don't get upset with things. It is what it is.
hmm,
And secondly, see everything as a learning opportunity, you know. But I'm also, I like the mindset of Mike. I look at Mike and I see a humble killer.
hmm.
It's basically, and I'm really drawn to that. And I guess that might be from my past life where all the grey people I work with that you kind of underestimate, they're just quiet killers. And I think there's something about that. And
And it's very interesting because I assimilate. I have the same previous life. The instructors that did the job that I did, that I wanted to be the most like, were the equivalent of Mike Jones, right? Mentality, super calm, nothing's a problem, operating in real sort of high demand situations, and it's they're literally doing a Sunday walk, or it sounds and looks like they're doing a Sunday walk,
yeah,
to people outside. Um, I had the same father. We're probably brothers, mate.
we
But
definitely,
interestingly, as most people who know me know, I am the guy that gets angry. I am the guy that goes.
yeah,
So yeah, that it's very easy to say you don't, and you don't. I've never seen you wind up at all, George, ever since I've known you. But I'm pretty sure people will know times where Chappie's been less than happy. Um, So yeah, I was going to seek some mental health help, and that was one of the questions. Like, how do I turn that off? How do I stop the path? And I used to call it, when I turn into a dinosaur, like I can feel me going.
yeah.
"Ah." and how do I stop that? How do I get out of that dinosaur mode? And they gave me a couple of real small, tiny mental things just to break it.
Yeah.
Uh, and one of them was a color and a number. So on the squash court, it was think of a color and a number, and so I've just duffed 2 points, rah rah rah, blue three, and so I'd have to find three things that were blue on the court. And normally, someone's t-shirt's got blue on it, a racket,
There's a
and
pattern interrupt. Basically, you're interrupting your mental pattern.
correct, right? So stop the dinosaur going, why the heck are you doing this? You're better than that. You should be focused on la la la. And so yeah, I would jump on the merry-go-round of becoming angry, so my performance dropped. So I got angry, so my performance dropped. So yeah, that was one of the most successful ways to at least interrupt. And one of the guys who was a physical training instructor at Hakia, massive, awesome human being. He was more like yourself. And his nickname was Terminator on the court. He used to walk around like a machine,
Mm.
or people called him a machine, playing squash, big, massive man of a mountain of a man. And he said every time someone goes your way, or someone hits it out, it's like, right, I'm going to make them pay twice for that.
Yeah.
Or if I duff it, I'm going to work twice as hard for the next one. So that was that turning the negative into a positive.
Yeah.
How do you affect the next? And
Yeah.
the thing about that is it gets you thinking ahead instead of going, oh, that was crap, that was crap.
Yeah.
His mentality is how do you solve or how do you increase your chances of improving your next shot,
Yeah.
corner, ride, evolution.
Well, generally, that emotional reaction to something that's occurred is only there because you're giving attention to the past
Yeah,
and
yeah,
seeing it
100%.
through a frame of reference that's just not helpful. And I always say to people, if you lost your memory of anything that occurred in the past, like it could be a shot that you just did, 30 seconds ago. If you lost your memory, you wouldn't be angry.
Correct.
Right? It's a memory thing. So basically, one is to distract yourself. That's a pattern interrupt for emotions. But the second one is just reframing the way you look at things. Like
Yeah,
I see things, everything is either a win or a learn.
yeah,
Right? Okay, I just learned something. Don't do that. And you know what I
yeah.
mean? And then I just give attention to the next thing. But the good thing is my memory is shit. So it seems like they disappear pretty quickly. But
Right, right.
I just know that focusing on the past turns the past into the present or the future.
Yeah, yeah,
So I've never ever dwelled on that. I think that's half of the battle of not getting angry.
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't get upset at all. I just go, okay, I just learned something. Cool, let's get on with it.
Oh.
Yeah, I think like anything, it's a repetition. It's something you got to practice, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think everyone's got their natural bias,
Correct.
um, and even if you've both had a certain similar environment being brought up, both realise that particular father was real angry and loved my old man to pieces. He passed away 15 years ago, but
Yeah.
how do you? I still think that I am better than him, and I've told my kids, if I start getting angry. I had a dad who was angry, and some marks come up and go, "Dad, you're acting like your dad." Give me the check.
Yep.
Okay, okay, son. Yep, yep. Sorry, mate. So I'm trying to keep learning. I don't think I'll ever get rid of the full emotive piece of my brain, but there's positives to it as well, right? Like
Yeah.
I think my tendency to swing into the happy bit is really supportive and positive, and I'd
Yeah.
hate to lose that, but because I think it's sort of part of what I'm known for. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
we've gone pretty pink and fluffy.
We have, we have. Um, what have I got here? I got no more notes. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting topic, but like you say, it's a tough one to talk about because, what is it? It's not a real. It's which this is the grey area. Like how to operate a throttle is black and white. How to think is so individual, and everyone's neurology is different and all that. So hopefully, we've given some people, you know, some pointers, some ideas. I think the most important thing to leave people with is that mindset is a skill. How you think, like anything, it's a repeated thing. And to change it, number one, you got to recognize what you're doing. And number two, then you got to practice just like you do the technical things.
And it seems to be if you can understand why,
Mm.
right? The why bit, you're more likely to affect the change, right? Why do I feel that way?
Mm.
Why don't you have trust in the front tire, George?
Yep.
Once you can work out why is it the feedback? Is it adding lean angle? What are the things that are actually like apart from the carte blanche statement? If you can figure out the exact why, then we can start to change individual things or parameters and see if it makes a difference and improve the why, right?
Yeah.
Or get rid of it completely. So, and everyone's different. Everyone's worried about something or has a hang up on something, and just because we have the same hang up doesn't mean the same proposition will be the solution.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, I think we're done.
Mr.
Uh,
Miyagi, all over.
yeah, 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 yeah. Interesting topic. I think who knows? I'm gonna continue the conversation with other people too and see what other people come up. Maybe we revisit it in the future.
It'd be really
Um,
cool to see it from both sides, right? So see it from the person who is at that high level, and then how do the people who support that person enable the mindset as well?
I want to talk to Steph about it because she's in a prime position for that. She works in that addicted to track race team. Shout out to Mark and everyone and Ant and Steph. Who knows? She might come on. I know she's going to listen to this.
But yeah, because that's a real. Just because you see something doesn't mean it's what it's happening in there, right? So we've both said what we like seeing, but yeah, and then people can say how they feel, and then how do you enable that? Because the team environment is so crucial now. No one does it on their own anymore. So how do they enable? How does Quadraro's team enable him to not want to throw a grinder at the Yamaha? Yeah.
One day, maybe they'll let us talk to them.
Yeah, yeah. How
Anyway,
cool, eh?
mate, you have fun. Thanks for the time again. Any plans for MotoGP Academy New Zealand? Anything happening?
Oh, yes. So the Mini GP Academy NZ is actually off.
MotoGP.
We've got a have a go day, which is next week, which I haven't actually published. So that's the standard local in the pits for kids to come and have a bit of a go. And then we're off to Taranaki, New Plymouth, which is sort of the western tip of the North Island. We haven't been to that racetrack, so we're going to do our formal training level ones for those who haven't done it, and then first time rolling out level twos. So get some kids on bikes with some visual information. So that's really exciting. So, and that's just under a month's time. So, yeah, winter over here. So we've got to be mindful of the weather. But we've got hopefully in the next month or two, we can start really getting into what's going to happen in summer.
Okay, awesome. And for people who want information about that, they go to where?
Mini GP Academy NZ.com. And that's our website. We've got it on all the social channels as well. But we've got an upcoming events page on that website, and I try and throw a video up for every event of what it is, where it is, and how it's going to operate. So there's something up now.
Okay, mate. Awesome.
How much?
Take care. We'll talk again very soon.
See you soon.